Mr. Robbie Knox, thank you very much for joining us on the Travel Talks podcast. It's so good to have you here. First of all, how you doing, mate?
I'm very excited. This is my favourite thing in the world to talk about is travel. Or my favourite thing is probably to go travelling. But sadly, that's been, I don't know if you've heard, but there's been quite a big pandemic on. And so that's not really been an option recently. So this is the next best thing.
So we always ask this question to our guests. How important is travel to you?
I think it's hugely. I think it's throughout my life. I think it's been important. I think it's very formative if people go travelling in their youth, and I think it shapes them for life. I think we've seen that in a lot of stuff. I mean, Brexit, for example. I think not many people I know who have seen the world were supportive of that sort of thing. I think it sort of. I've seen the world. That sounds positive. As in people who've travelled around and experienced these things. And I've got friends who just went travelling for years now, and they lived in Barcelona for a bit and all this sort of stuff. But I think I went. I didn't do a lot of travelling in my youth. We go on holidays, as in up until I was left uni really. But then after that, I went to Canada for a year and I lived out there. I think seeing the world and seeing different people and all the different opportunities and stuff available to you, I think is fantastic.
So that's interesting because the next thing we were going to ask is about what travel looked like when you were younger. You know, what it meant to you as a kid. So if that it didn't really come about till later in life, did you say?
Well, I went on family holidays, but they were generally to Lanzarote, Malta, Canary Islands, sort of thing like that. And then I don't really remember going. We didn't go for weekends away and stuff like that because it was before budget airlines really, and just didn't really do it. We went on one family holiday that was outside of Europe. Well, I mean, I suppose Canary Islands are outside of Europe, aren't they? But you know, it doesn't really count.
Technically.
But I think we went to Barbados when I was 16, which was amazing seeing somewhere.
Oh, nice.
Like that. Barbados was like in the 90s was like the Dubai of Florida of these days. So I think that was the sort of aspirational. The Caribbean was much more of a sort of thing than it seems to be now. And everyone talks about going to the Caribbean anymore. So we did that. That was the only real beyond Europe holiday. But we didn't really do much travelling. And then when I went to uni, we did like a sort of lads trip abroad sort of thing. And I did a weekend on the Eurostar and to places or like things like that. But then it was only after that I really started traveling to more obscure places, more interesting places, if you will.
So when you think about those trips you did when you were younger, like even just little holidays, little week-long things or whatever, do you have any experiences that you kind of draw back to and think like, oh yeah, that was probably the time where I thought, oh, I quite like being, out of my comfort zone, or I quite like hot climates or anything like that?
I don't think so. No, because I don't think I got particularly into traveling until afterwards. My mum was very encouraging of me to travel after uni and saying you should and see things, which is good. But certainly growing up, no, we'd go on holidays, but I don't think I necessarily had any holidays that I was particularly into. Like I was a lot of the time, it would be like we'd go on a holiday for 2 weeks and I'd be missing a football tournament at home or something like that. And I'd be like, I'd quite like to be back home. So I don't think I really got into. I don't think I really understood the things. And also, you'd get put in kids' clubs. I never particularly like going and being put into kids' clubs and stuff like that. I went on a few school trips. I went skiing a couple of times as a kid, but never really, which was interesting. But my close friends weren't necessarily there, so it was people I didn't know that well. So I don't think I particularly enjoyed those early. I was certainly really miserable as a kid. I don't think there was a particularly a thing prior to 18 that I particularly was into. No.
So you're a parent yourself now. So I'm interested to know how similar is the way that you travelled as a child to how you now travel with your children?
Completely different.
What have you learned perhaps about travelling as a parent that perhaps you didn't realise when you were a kid?
The expense of things, like quite a lot. Like if we're going away as a family, like if you're going to an airport and flying somewhere, 5 flights, it might not look much at first, but then when you add on baggage and stuff like that, and if you're going in a school holiday, you can easily. So we went to Portugal a few years ago. It was the last abroad family holidays that we took on a plane, and I think the flights alone probably came to about £1,000, and that was the cheapest possible flights we could find on convenient dates to us, sort of thing. so that's what I was used to when I was younger. I'd just find a cheap place to go to in my 20s and go there, and you get flights around 100 quid or whatever. But so there's a lot of getting ferries to France and driving somewhere to Eurocamp. So that sort of stuff. But yeah, in terms of how different it is, I tend to go. When I'm traveling with my wife, she wants slightly more comfort. She'll get more stressed by the stressful side of things, whereas I will be much happier. I tend to go away when my kids are 3 or 4. Yeah, 3. The first 2, I took them away independently, just me and a 3-year-old, which is a brilliant. If you're ever bored of the world, go on holiday with a 3-year-old. It's a bit weird if you haven't got a 3-year-old of your own, but it's terrific because they're going like, "Wow, can we go?" They like love like a hotel breakfast is like, this is incredible. They'll see like something interesting like that. It's so good. It's such a great age, 3 or 4. But the problem is, Arlo, my youngest, is 4 now, and he's just turned, and it's been throughout a pandemic. Since he was 3, sort of thing. So we haven't really been anywhere yet. But I want to get away for a weekend with him at some point. But no, I think it's. I just want to get them out as much and to see as much of the world and as is humanly possible.
Nice. Okay, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit, and you already mentioned it a bit, but I know I've talked to you in the past about your ski seasons.
Yeah.
So first of all, what kind of encouraged you to decide to move to a life in the mountains, at least for a season? How did that come about, and where did you go?
I was at uni at UEA in Norwich, and I didn't know what I wanted to do after uni, but literally a girl I was going out with at the time I was meeting on campus, and she was at the careers library, and I'd never been to the careers library before. So I went, oh, okay. It's our 3rd year, probably should have checked it out. And I went there, and there were there was leaflets there about going to Canada or going to Australia. And I looked at it, and Canada at the time, you could only get a visa as soon as you finish uni. Australia, you get up to your 30s. So I thought, well, I'll go to Canada, because then if I decide I want to go to Australia afterwards, I can still do that. Don't want to cut off the options, sort of thing. So I went, okay, I'll do that. Went to Toronto for a week. Wasn't that keen. Went over to Vancouver. Liked it a lot more. And then I was just in there, and I was looking for things to do. And I thought, well, just up the road was Whistler. And I was living in Vancouver, which obviously a very different life and very different. But I thought, I'm not going to get another chance to go and work and live in a mountain. That's like a different experience. And I didn't want to miss out on FOMO. Don't want to miss out on that. So I thought, well, I'll go and do that for 6 months and then come back to Vancouver. So I just went up there for the entire ski season that year in 98, 99.
So how did you go from being someone that necessarily wasn't that into travel in your sort of teens, going to university, and then suddenly be like, you know what, I'm going to move to Canada?
Well, because I just think I hadn't really had the opportunity to go travel. I mean, beyond holiday. I mean, I didn't. I suppose when you're under 16, you don't go anywhere unless your parents are taking you. I don't know. I just thought, well, I didn't really want to get a job. I thought I'd quite like uni. I thought this seems like a sort of nice step between it, doing a bit of work, but also other stuff. So I thought I'll just go. And it was like a working holiday visa. So I'm working in Vancouver. I was working at like a petrol station, a coffee shop until I got sacked. And then I went to a petrol station and then up to Whistler. So I don't know, just decided to do it, I guess.
I think there's a story there.
Just do stuff.
Station.
We're getting sacked. So it was a dignified sacking because the same people owned the coffee shop and the petrol station. Okay. I think essentially I didn't really know. I spent too much time talking to customers and not enough time serving customers. And I think they wanted a quicker turnover of customers. So, but they didn't ever tell me this. And it has taught me now in a place where I now sometimes employ people to tell them if things aren't going well. Because the first time I knew that anything wasn't good was when they said, you can't work here anymore. I was like, all right, okay. But they said, look, you can't work here anymore. It's not right for you. But we have a petrol station. It's exactly the same pay. You can go work there if you want. So I went, yep, fine. So it was like, it was a, we like you, but this isn't right. Move over here sort of thing. So it was fine. But yeah, I think in hindsight, it was a bit too chatty, not enough worky.
Of all the reasons to be sacked from anywhere, that's quite dignified, like you say.
That's pretty
it's
good,
not like
it?
you were siphoning off fuel or anything.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't stealing from the coffee shop. No, and it was nice to sort of think to go back to the same place. It's the best possible sacking I think I've had.
Just to bring it back to the skiing, as someone who's never been skiing, I'm going to speak on behalf of the people who are listening who haven't ever been and perhaps have played around with the idea of wanting to go. So how would you convince me and everyone listening that we should give it a go? What does the day-to-day look like?
Okay, it's the best holiday. I would happily never go on another summer holiday and go skiing once a year or something like
Wow. Okay.
that. I get bored on beaches. I think I'm going to like it. And I go, I'm going to do so much reading. But when you've read for like 4 hours, it's like, I'm quite bored of reading. This is not... I like reading, but I don't like reading every day, all day, for weeks. And then also in beach, you're just sort of killing time till you start drinking, and then you can't really read anymore. So there's a lot of flaws. There's a lot of flaws with beach holidays for me. Like I like a city break, and I like going somewhere like Barcelona where you can go to the beach for a bit, and then you can go and do other stuff. So I was there in Canada, and then when I came back, I was working at Soccer AM, and we couldn't take holiday during the football season. So but I wanted to go skiing. So what I'd do is I organise a ski trip for friends. I emailed a few friends at first. Said, look, I really want to go skiing. I can go on the Monday. I can go on the Saturday, after the show finishes. Ski Sunday, Monday, and fly back really early Tuesday morning. Anyone fancy? Okay. I don't think anyone would be interested. But I eventually, I think we had like 12, 13 people going that first year.
Wow.
And then I did it every year. And eventually we managed to negotiate with Soccer to get a 1 day off. So we'd come back on the Wednesday morning instead of the Tuesday. So I get an extra day sort of thing. But in the end, I sort of peak. We had like 40 people a year, and it was like friends and friends of friends.
That's amazing.
So the people I'd only ever see. So I was chartering coaches in France and stuff like that. I was like arranging this. I go, right, everyone. What I do is I go, everyone book their own flights because that's too much hassle.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd book hotels. Otherwise, I go with this hotel's got room for everyone. Everyone book independently. I can help you pair up if you don't know people. If you need help with rooms and all that. But for the transfer, I go, look, the easiest thing is if we just charter a coach. So everyone owes me 30 quid for a place on this coach. And so it basically became a travel agent that did a not-for-profit travel agent. So I do this, and it was fantastic. A lot of the Soccer M group would go. Lots of like weird people have then gone and do other things. Lou Sanders is a comedian. She would come along. I think who else? Lots of people from areas and friends of friends. Some people I'm still in touch with. Some people I'm still in touch with now. This guy Eurodog I know from it. He came out to Whistler 3 years ago with me, and I've only ever seen this bloke on ski trips. Like he's a friend, and I literally would not speak to him for 4 years if I've not been anywhere like that. I go, and like when I was going to Whistler, I went, "Hey mate, going to Whistler from these dates in March. Do you fancy it?" Next thing I got, he went, "Yep, booked up." And that was it. So it's what I like about it is you're doing something. It's an active holiday. It's not just you sat around, and everything is beautiful. Like even like the sort of 60s ski resorts that are a bit, or 60s or 80s ski resorts that aren't built in the sort of chocolate box thing. It's still anything with snow on it is lovely, sort of thing. They're beautiful places. If you like good food, good drink. Just a brilliant day, and you'll get up, go out on the mountain, have fun, go to a bar afterwards, have a drink, maybe go and get changed, go get some food, go out. And some of the nicest meals I've ever had have been on the mountain that you can't get to unless you ski to them. Like these little mountain huts you'll find and have this amazing like fondue or something else, and that you there's no way to get to it without skiing. It's halfway down a mountain.
See, this is what I love about Robbie. He says it how it is. I've been trying to convince you about skiing, Alex, for so long. It's activity holidays like skiing. There honestly is nothing better.
My concern, right,
go on,
is it would be too cold. I'm thinking I don't like being cold. I'm thinking my hands are cold, my feet are cold. Is that completely not the truth?
There's never bad weather. There's only bad clothing. You've made the wrong clothing choices there. If you've got enough layers on, you can be toasty warm, whatever it is. Just have the right gear. And there are days where it's less fun if it's freezing and the snow is pelting down and you can't see. It's less fun than another day. But you go March. I've skied in t-shirts before. It doesn't have to be because you've got the snow base there, and if it's like if the sun's out, you can get sunburned skiing. Do you know what I mean? It's wonderful. I'm a big fan of spring skiing, and the last 2 big trips I've done, I went to Whistler for a reunion, 20-year reunion, a couple of years ago, and then last year I managed just before the pandemic to go out to Telluride in Colorado skiing. and that was absolutely fantastic. But that we go March, and then it's beautiful. You got lovely sunshine. You can sit outside in the sun and all that sort of thing. It's you don't have to be cold.
Exactly. And
You
even
are
on those
selling
days where it is rubbish, and it's like snowy and cold, the following day the snow's better than ever because it's had a fresh powder and you're loving life again.
And if it's bad, you just if there's a bit where it's a bit unpleasant, you just go and sit inside, have a hot chocolate or a van show, and have a chat. And it doesn't matter because you're still in a glorious mountain.
Van show, that's a hot wine for anyone that's not cultured.
Or glühwein if you're in Austria. Van show in France.
Okay, so before we move on, just a couple things more about skiing. Can you isolate some of your best stories from your time in the mountains?
I was lucky enough to be there in a time before camera phones in Whistler, and there was a guy called Guitar Doug. And I hadn't really thought about it. There's a guy called Guitar Doug who had literally moved to Whistler maybe a year before I was there in 1998, and he is still there now. He's now in a band called the Hare Farmers, and if you're ever there, go and see them. It's absolutely fantastic. And when we went out for the 20-year reunion, we went to see them, and saw Doug afterwards. Hey, Doug, we were there in like 90s, man. It was, oh man, those are crazy times. I was going, it still seems quite crazy now. He goes, nah, it's not the same, man. I was going, why not? He said, do you remember Naked Limbo? And I went, oh yeah. And it used to be like they'd be in the ski bars and people would like just get naked and like under a ski doing limbo. He says it's all stopped with camera phones. He said people won't get naked now because people just take photos and put them on the internet. I was going, fair enough. And there was stuff like that. And my boss, there's a guy I knew called Willie, who was my boss in Whistler, and there's a restaurant called Rendezvous that I worked in, and he's still there now. I think he's a Hawaiian guy. He spends his summers in Hawaii surfing and his winters in Whistler skiing, and has done for as long as I've known him. And he was the biggest party animal I've ever met. And he was my authority figure. He was like my boss, the boss of the whole restaurant at the time. And I remember being on one night out, and it wasn't a fancy dress. We were in Merlin's, the bar at the bottom of Blackcomb Mountain. It's my favourite bar I've ever been to. And he walked in and he was dressed as Tina Turner, full makeup, the wig, that sort of, is it the Simply the Best video, something like that, sort of coffee coloured hair and all that sort of stuff, and a dress on for no real reason. So I go, all right, Willie, just Tina Turner. He went, yeah, just carry on with that drinking. And I was just drinking with friends. And then later on, I saw him walk back through the bar, still with the wig and makeup on, but completely naked, like just walking around this bar, chatting to people, drinking a beer. And no one else was naked. It was just Willie. And I was like, I remember just thinking, like, this is my authority figure. This is the person who I should be looking up to. And he's just walking around naked, dressed as Tina Turner. What is going on? And he had these he had a hot tub party for us. We won some awards for like best restaurant in the mountain one month. They had an award every month, and I think they probably just gave it to every restaurant once. I don't know, but we got it once, and they got a budget for a party. So we had a party in his hot tub, and he lived in an apartment block. There was a pool and a hot tub. And there's video footage of. There's very little video footage of that time because you had to have a VHS camera to do it. There was no camera phones to say. But my friend Wayno in Australia had this video camera. We've got the footage. And you're watching it back, things that just seem completely normal. There's a bit where I'm in this hot tub with two sort of girls in bikinis I'm just sort of chatting to, like just friends of mine. And Willie walks behind with like one of those, like a bottle of spirits, I don't know what it is, with one of those like pouring things on it, you get bars. And I'm just talking, and I don't acknowledge Willie. I just lean back and open my mouth, and he just pours a shot into it, and I just swallow it and carry on talking with no acknowledgement that he's done this. Like, just it was completely normal. So it was stuff like that. I think it was good. And then since then, I've had great nights out. If you've got a group of you in a ski resort, it's very hard to have a bad night out. Very hard. Yes.
And the altitude as well does sort of wonders, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you don't get hangovers. If you go out, if you stay in, you're in trouble. I think if you've got fresh air, you get a bit of exercise going, drink enough water. I've never had, and I've drunk an immense amount of alcohol on ski trips. I never really had a proper hangover. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Exactly.
You're interested, aren't you?
Yeah. No, you really sold me. To be fair. I like the idea of the springtime.
I'll go through some of the other things people say because I have this discussion a lot with people. Price, people worry about that a lot, but you can go to Bulgaria. I went to Bulgaria with my kids in January 2020, and you can get flights, accommodation, all your equipment, and lessons, and half board for around £500 if you go to
That's
Bulgaria.
amazing. That's
That is
amazing.
amazing.
You can go
That's a city break.
all that you're paying on top of that is your booze and your lunches. That's all you need. Sort of.
That's seriously good.
Yeah, I mean, you're not necessarily staying in a 5-star hotel, but it doesn't matter, does it? Because so it doesn't have to be expensive, and Bulgaria is a great place to learn and to have fun. Yeah,
I lied about saying we want to move on after this because I just have one more question about skiing and the
I would never get bored of this. So don't worry.
The ski season. So I guess for anyone that's listening that's thinking about what a ski season actually looks like, can you give us a brief rundown of what the work-life balance is doing a ski season?
In Whistler, working for the mountain, it was very good. There are people who go, I don't know how practical it is post Brexit, but people who go to like chalets in Europe and will have one day off. But we would get, I worked for the mountain, I'd get 2 days off. You get a free ski pass if you work for the mountain. So that saves you, I don't know how much, probably £1.50. Also, accommodation in Whistler was very tough to get. So there was staff housing, like halls of residence type thing that you could get into. So those are the hard things. But work-life balance was pretty good. 2 days off a week, got free ski lessons. If there's a group lesson, if there's a group lesson that wasn't full and you weren't there, you could just go along and join in. And you got to ski home every day as well. So I worked up the mountain, so my commute was ski lift up and skiing at home every day. So that was good. And also on quiet days, they would say to you, "I want to take a ski break," and you wouldn't get paid, but you could say it's a bit quiet. I'll go out for 2 hours and go skiing.
Amazing,
nice,
yeah, amazing.
So yeah, that was good. But there are jobs where you have a much worse work-life balance, or longer hours, I should say. But a lot of the time, you don't really care it in your youth, do you? Sort of thing. And some jobs are evening stuff. If you work in a bar in the evening, it does mean you have to sleep at some point, but you can ski all day and then go out working the night. So yeah, depends on the job.
Sounds awesome. I'm excited now to move the conversation onto your time at Soccer AM because it's something we've got in common. I know from working on the show that it's allowed me to travel and experience things that I wouldn't have done otherwise. So I'm interested to learn, what's the travel experience that sticks out to you from your time on the show?
We didn't do a lot of travel for work, particularly. I didn't ever go abroad, I don't think, specifically for work. I did get to go to a couple of Champions League finals. Nice. I have 3 in fact, but 2 Liverpool ones. I'm a Liverpool fan, so 2 Liverpool ones. Went to Istanbul in 2005 Athens in 2007, I think. And I also went to the one in the middle, the Barcelona one in Paris. And I remember, and we were guests at PlayStation. John Scales was doing work with PlayStation Cup, something, some schools tournament. And I remember Sheephead, who I worked with at Soccer AM. And then we went along to watch this tournament, and Luis Garcia's playing at Liverpool at the time in 2007. Is that his name? Yeah, Luis Garcia. Yeah. So he was injured for the final and was there, and we were sort of chatting to him at this tournament like that. And Joe asked the best small talk question I've ever heard. When he said to Luis Garcia, he goes, "You disappointed to not be playing tonight?" Nah, mate. No, I don't really like the European. Don't really like the Champions League final. I'm not sure. Bradford away's where it's at for me. Can't be bothered with the big European finals. To be fair, he played. No, it's just really disappointing. You don't have to answer that. Don't answer that, Luke. Yeah. Just ignore. Piss off.
I mean, watching the show at the time, you can tell that the chemistry that you had with the crew was amazing. And even going back and looking at the YouTube clips now, you can still see it. You all look like you're genuinely great mates having a great time. What was that like at the time? Not just working, but also even if just regionally traveling alongside your mates, making that sort of show.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and it was great fun. And I did end up going away with a lot of these people. Neil Smythe, who now works at Hashtag, you guys know, I go away quite a bit with him, and also we happened to go one summer because we get huge summer holidays, because there was no. Yeah. Certainly, some of the time we have to do summer Soccer AM shows where we would edit certain things. But the deal was you could take any holiday during the football season, but in exchange you got a long summer break. So there was one year, I remember when it was like a World Cup year or a Euros year, where the summer break was slightly longer. They'd finish the season earlier and do this sort of thing. I literally left work on FA Cup final day and didn't go back to 2 weeks. So like early May, and didn't go back to the start of August. So you'd have nice. All of middle of May, June, July, 2.5 months off, sort of thing. So we would get really good breaks. The key I found in the holidays was not to do too much towards the end. You wanted to be a bit bored and want to go back to work. If you did too much stuff, then you'd be like, oh, and you'd be jaded when you went back in. But that was really nice. And as I say, there's a lot of things with these ski trips we'd organise away. We'd also do like weekends away with people to go places. Rocket, Tubes, and Neil I all went away with during the Soccer AM times. So it was really nice fun because we were very close. And it was a stressful environment, a fun environment most of the time, but a very stressful environment of that. So you had that sort of shared experience of an understanding of things. And even now when some of the guys I haven't seen for a while, when you do meet up with them, you do sort of go, that was mad when this happened. That was when wasn't it?
Nice.
And then after Soccer AM came the freelance life. I wonder did that bring any more weird travel experiences? Anything like that comes to mind?
I went to, before the World Cup in Brazil, a year or two ago, I went out to Brazil to film for a company that, and this is in the client's words, makes World Cup tat. And what they meant was just the stuff. It's officially licensed stuff that they make that they sell at petrol stations. You know what I mean? A vuvuzela or whatever, that sort of stuff. So we went out to do some filming for them, and we basically were filming just a little minute-long thing in Rio, so which was fantastic because you got to go around there. So we were filming like in the favelas overlooking Maracanã and all this sort of stuff on Copacabana Beach, all these different places. So that was incredible. Even though I was only there for a few days, it was absolutely incredible to be in this place that seems so far from your life, and that you remember as a kid seeing, like what it was called now, the
Christ the Redeemer.
Christ the Redeemer. Yeah, I was trying to do it in Portuguese there, but Christ the Redeemer. All that sort of stuff, and being on Copacabana Beach and all this stuff like that, and seeing like kids playing football and all that was just fantastic.
What did you make of Brazil in general? As you know, in terms of like culture, food, people, because it's sort of splits opinion. Because there's some people that are like, this is the best place I've ever been in my life, and there's people that have these horror stories about crime and things like that.
I loved it, and I accept that there is horrific crime. No one I spoke to who lived in Brazil hadn't been robbed. No one, not one person. Brazilians, guys, because we were working with a Brazilian production company, which is good because they'd take us out and chat to them and all this. But they were just sort of like, it happens every now and then. It was weird things. Like we never had any issues, but it was stuff like the cash machines. We tried to go get some money out at like 10 o'clock at night, and they couldn't get any money out. We said, the cash machine wasn't working there. We went, they all stopped working at 9 because everyone just gets robbed. So like you can't get money out from cash machine after 9 p.m., for example, or you couldn't at the time. And it was stuff like that. We had one guy, I think I've told this story on Happy Hour before, but we had one guy, this guy called Breno, who we were working with, worked on the film City of Gods, if you're aware of that sort of thing. Very cool. His job was, he was a production team, and his job was, he would go, they were using actual actors from the favelas, kids who lived up there. So he would go in a minibus with a driver, pick up the kids in the morning, take them onto set, look after them, and then take them back in the minibus in the evening. And it was all arranged with the favelas and all this stuff. They were getting paid and everything. So we drove there one evening to drop the kids back off. On the way back out, him and the driver, they got stopped by a guy with a machine gun in the middle of the road of this favela. And Brenna said, "Look, we've arranged it. It's okay. We were here. We're making a film. Kids have been actors in it. We arranged it with this guy who's like the head of the favela. It's all fine." He goes, "Yeah, no problem." He goes, "I just need you to give me a lift somewhere." And he goes, "All right, no problem." So he opens up the back of the minibus, and like 8 people, all with guns, weapons and stuff, come out and get back in the minibus. And the driver starts like bricking it. He's like going, like proper hyperventilating, going, I can't drive. He goes, and Brenna's going, "No, you have to drive or we're going to die. But if you just do what they say, it's all going to be okay." So we're fine. So they started driving, and they were going, and they were just directing him, go through here. These guys, and he was sort of, after a little bit, he was thinking, okay, this isn't so bad now. Maybe they just want to lift somewhere. It's fine. He said at that point they were going past a police car. A guy in the back wound down the window and got a megaphone out, and they're shouting to traffic, like obviously in Portuguese. They're going, "Get out of the way of the terror car. The terror car is coming through." The driver's like going, "What's he saying about a terror car, mate? What's a terror car?" And they're like, and some guy had a rocket launcher in the back, was pointing at the police cars, and the police are like, "Nope, okay, all fine, on you go, sir, no problem. So they were just driving through with these guns hanging out the back of these vans and all this stuff, and weapons and all this, going to about the terror car. And an event, they just drove through for like half an hour through Rio, and they said, pull up here, pull up outside the woods, and the guys all just run into the woods. Never saw them again. So he went back to work the next day, went, I will no longer work here, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to quit. So there was stuff like that. But on the good side of it, I absolutely loved it. I thought the people were lovely, the food was there. And what I really liked about it is the bars you'd go to and on nights out, there wasn't bars that old people go to and bars that young people go to. You'd be in these bars where there'd be like 18-year-olds dancing with like 70-year-old blokes at the same bar. Something. It was like everyone seemed, I don't know if it was just the bar I went to, but everyone seemed to be going to the same places and just having a good time.
So moving on now, we've got to talk about YouTube. I think it's fair to say your videos kind of celebrate the mundane things in life that we might all take for granted.
Yeah.
And your approach to telling those sort of stories is very, very unique. So I guess the first question is, what have you learned since becoming like a YouTube creator?
I've learned that, well, before I did it, I learned that YouTube was a thing. It's weird because I didn't watch YouTubers before. I knew JaackMaate and obviously met Saunders, I met Spencer. So I knew a few YouTubers, but I didn't ever sit down and go, I will now watch some YouTube sort of thing. I'd go to YouTube when I had to fix something or do something and learn how a technique or something. But then I was talking to Will Brazier, who I don't know, I know Saunders knows. I was talking to Will one day up at Watford's training ground. We were doing some filming with Troy Deeney, and he was saying, "Why don't you start a YouTube channel?" And I was like, I think that's probably for younger people. Like, as in, and I didn't realize there were sort of people over 20 who did YouTube things, sort of thing, over 30. And he said, look, I don't want to sound rude. He said, but I know what it's like being an 18-year-old starting university. He goes, I don't know what it's like. He goes, because there's 8,000 vlogs every September, sort of thing. He goes, I don't know what it's like being middle-aged, sort of thing. So I thought, okay, I'll do a video a week for 6 months. I think if you're going to do something, you should commit to it, try it, and see if I enjoy it, and then carry on. I was sort of thinking it would be nice to make some portion of my income from it, not necessarily everything, but some portion of my income from it. But I was thinking like 5 to 10 years time, sort of thing. I was thinking grow it a much more gradual process than it's possibly been. So yeah, I guess I learned that you can do anything on YouTube within reason, sort of thing. But also I think I'm quite good at sort of production-y things and telling stories in that. And I do believe you can make anything interesting if you do it. And now I can go to, because I run a production company as a day job sort of thing, I can now go, when clients are going, our business is not very interesting. I go, I've got like 40,000 views on taking the bins out, mate. So I think we can make your factory interesting or stuff like that. So it's good at that front. But yeah, I think I've learned a lot about techniques and thumbnails and all that sort of stuff like that, and titling and clickbaiting. Although I sort of hate the world of clickbait. I sort of refuse to go all the way. Because, like, for example, I did a walking video with Cam Kirkham just before Christmas. Lovely guy, and he never met me before, never met my kids. He bought my kids Christmas presents. I just went to like a shop, bought some things. Really kind thing to do. The title of that video should be Cam Kirkham is a lovely bloke who bought my kids Christmas presents. The title that would get views would be How Cam Kirkham Killed XO or something like that. But what you want is something in the middle. But in the end, I go for something in the middle about, I can't remember, something like why
Bambino Becky.
Bambino Becky, something like that. Why they have a beef, which is like a jokey beef they have, sort of thing. So I hate the sort of clickbaity titling sort of thing, but I understand you have to be slightly smart with it. And what I do now is when I'm doing a video, I'll have a video and I've got an intention for it in mind. So it will either be something to keep people who are already there happy, like taking out the bins, because no one's going to go taking out the bins into YouTube and search for it. But then equally, I do like a few skiing videos and stuff like that, and there'll be things like I will think about the title and that, and so the cheapest ski resort in Europe or something like that. I know people are going to search for cheapest ski resort in Europe, and if you've made a good quality video, then it should get views in theory. So yeah, I've learned that.
We've
Nice.
talked about this quite a lot in the past about, the game playing side of it. Because
Yeah.
as much of it is about, just making content that you like and having fun, there is just like, that whole other side, isn't there? But you seem to have hit a really happy balance between the two, I think.
Yeah, I think you've got to just work out what level you can accept, what level, how far you're going to go with it, sort of thing, to keep sort of true to yourself. Because I'm never going to be doing this extreme clickbait things. But even then, I run a brewery now with my friend Mike, and he's new to the whole YouTube thing, and we did a video where we talked about our finances of the brewery sort of thing, and I called it how much money do we make from our merch drop. And he's like, yeah, but the video's not all about that, it's about that. I go, I don't care, people are going to want to know
not the way this
how
works.
much money you make from it. That's it'll get them to click on it. They'll have to sit through the other 20 minutes if they want to find out. So yeah, I've learned a bit about that, and I think I level where I'm happy with it.
Like Saunders mentioned, we've had people in the past who are content creators who've spoken about getting hung up on likes, comments, engagement. I'm interested, as you've mentioned in the past, about not growing up in the world of camera phones and technology. Do you find that you're still hung up on analytics and things that ultimately don't matter?
I don't care. I genuinely mean, I've got to a position.
Yeah.
First of all, but the key to it is, I don't get me wrong, if no one's watching the videos, if everyone's not watching the videos, I'd start to care. But I don't care if a video is a 1 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, as in the YouTube thing, which tells you the most popular thing on that, because it doesn't reflect the quality of the video. It's not relevant. It's not. It doesn't matter. Like you can. I did a video where I was talking about not caring about opinions, and if someone doesn't like something, it doesn't matter. Like my daughter doesn't like, or my son. I said my son doesn't like broccoli. That doesn't mean I'm not going to eat broccoli. It's just someone's opinion on something. It's not. Yeah. It's got nothing to do with me. And not everyone's going to like everything. And people who like some of your stuff aren't going to like everything. There's no, like, I did a video with Chews talking about his heart attack, and there are people who've clicked dislike on that. I do not like this man talking about surviving a heart attack. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, people could, it could be any reason. People could look at me and go, and their girlfriend could have left them for someone with a moustache, and they will go, I don't like this bloke for that reason. It could be it could be anything, sort of thing. So it doesn't necessarily matter. It could be the YouTube algorithm, not picking up on something for whatever reason. It could be the title's not appealing to people. It honestly doesn't bother me at all. It's nice when something does well, and not just from the ad revenue sense of things, but it's quite good when you see something really kicking off. But a lot of the time, I've got a rough idea how well something will do, and it doesn't bother me if it doesn't do well.
You mentioned earlier about your Going for a Walk series, which is something that I've watched through lockdown and absolutely loved. Walking in nature is something that I'm sure a lot of people are doing now more than ever. So I'm wondering, what do you think the benefits of getting out into nature and going for a walk are, and how does it help you?
I think it's incredible. I mean, I think if you get out, if you're walking your own, you have ideas that you wouldn't have if you just sat down. You can sit and sometimes I go walking and I'll listen to music a lot of the time. But if you go walking, I think the most effective walking is when you just don't have any headphones in, you're not on your phone, you're just wandering around looking things and taking things in and all this. And so yesterday I took the kids out, school holidays. I took my 3 kids out and walked down the marshes near me and down to, we found a little bit of river. There was a swing there. They played the swing for a bit. They paddled in the water. They see a squirrel. They get excited by it. They find an interesting stick and stuff like this. And I think it clears the mind, and I think it makes you feel better getting outside, and it just is good for the mental health. I like doing I started doing the walking videos partly because at the time I started doing them, you weren't allowed to go inside. I thought, well, I could do, if we're going to make videos with people, I have to be outside, so I do walking. And what I like about them as well is there is nothing in the videos that anyone else couldn't do. There's no fancy camera. I'm not using drones. I've got a drone, but I'm not using it in that. It's generally static shots. It's one camera with a microphone on top pointing at some people talking, sort of things. There's nothing, apart from possibly getting access to the guests to do it, there's nothing that anyone else, it's not complicated to do. Anyone can do it, sort of thing. So that's what I like about it, and that's why I enjoy about it. And I get lovely messages about them from people, and it's something I didn't really expect going into this. I thought I'll make videos about going to the bins. People might find them funny, took the bins out, people might find them funny and go on. But I didn't expect. I get a lot of messages from people who say it helps their anxiety or depression or agoraphobia or various different mental concerns. And like one of the nicest messages I've ever got at the first lockdown, someone messaged me saying, "Hey, you don't know me. We've just had a baby. It's premature. It's stressful. It's a bit touch and go. I'm not allowed into the hospital because of COVID. My wife's in there with the baby. And I came home last night and was stressed out. And I sat down and watched 8 hours of your videos to calm me down in a row. I just want to say thanks." And things like that.
Wow.
You think there's someone who's got as stressful a situations you can imagine in life, pretty much, to help people in that thing. That's wonderful. I'm not saying I'm a key worker here, but it's nice. It's nice to be able to that you're doing some good in whatever way.
For sure. I mean, having watched those, actually, having been fortunate enough to live one of those videos and do one with you.
And it was fantastic. A lot of people say to me as well, do you know what I loved was the Saunders video? I get a lot of people saying, I get a lot of people saying how much they enjoyed it. They always say, which is sort of an insult. They go, "You'll be surprised by this. It was the Saunders video." And I love saying like that, which is sort of a compliment hidden in an insult. So
it's the story of my life.
Yeah.
I watched that video before you came on as a guest, Saunders, to make sure like I learned as much about you as possible. And yeah, it was really, really useful for me, but I just really enjoyed it as well. So good.
It was good to, I really enjoyed being on it, but also like watching the others as well. You kind of tapped into it there. It's similar to like the podcast format, I think. It's something that we really enjoy doing this, Alex, and we'll get onto happy hour in a little bit, Robbie. But like just the having good conversations with people, good chats, that kind of reminds you of what being human is all about. You're less game playing. It's less about short, snappy social media. It's just, doing what we do best.
And once you get out and start walking for a bit, if you're with someone for a couple of hours, it's quite rare that you're with one person for several hours, unless you're in a pub or you're drinking or sort of do stuff like that. But you tend to get, within the first 10, 15 minutes, you get all the small talk out the way. And you can get into some quite deep conversations, or not necessarily deep, but different conversations with people. I'm not just talking about the videos, I'm talking about in general. If you go walking with someone, after a while, you can get really in sort of intense or get to know them a lot better. I mean, I found like chatting with Spencer, in fact, your brother, Saunders, learning things like he's into musical theatre that I would never have known before. And just things you learn new things about people, I think, when you just chat to someone in that sort of environment. There's no distractions.
I was just going to say, I think that comes from the fact that when you're walking with someone, often it's side by side. And I think when you're in an environment where you're sat across a table from someone, you have to look into their eyes and talk about something really deep and see all their reactions to everything you say. It's a lot more intense. When you're walking side by side, you can kind of just know someone's there and talk, and then know that you're going to get the reaction, but almost not be judged by their facial expressions in a way.
Yeah, I think there's something in that. Yeah, I agree.
If you kind of tie that into the travel side of things as well, like I think everybody should always make time on a holiday or a trip or whatever, just to go for a walk somewhere, even if it's just like along the beach in the morning, or even around the grounds of the hotel, and just kind of disconnect from wanting to take a picture of something or doing an activity, and just like have a chat. Don't worry about trying to make the most of every single moment, and just kind of live in that environment for a second. And I think, walking and chatting, some of the conversations that come up when you kind of not let your guard down, but you know what I'm getting at, like you're not thinking about doing anything, you just go bleh, and you start talking. Who knows what you get to.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree completely. It's one of my favorite things when I'm abroad, because I tend to wake up early, a lot earlier than all my friends generally. So quite often I will go, and if there's a jet lag or something, I go, I'm awake at 6 a.m. and my friend in the bed next to me isn't going to, in the bed next to me, not in my bed next to me, in the bed next to me. And my friend, I did in Whistler recently, in Vancouver, sorry, you wake up early and go, well, I've probably got a few hours before he's going to get up. And also he's probably going to be slow and all this sort of thing. So I'm just going to go walking, and you can spend a couple of hours just really going around and just seeing places and getting set up. And then particularly if it's a new place, you've got that, your bearings set up, and you can go, I saw this great thing. It's not open. It wasn't open at 6 a.m., but now it will be. Let's go and check this out. Or this restaurant looks good, or something like that. So one of my favorite things is just wandering around, particularly if you're somewhere like New York, just going, just strolling around is amazing.
Exactly.
Nice. Right, so Robbie, when we wrote this question, we had to write, we don't want to make you sound old.
It's amusing because the thing, what's funny about it is that in the grand scheme of things, I'm not that old.
No,
you're not.
But in YouTube, I'm like, I'm like Yoda or something like that. 'Cause it's all relevant. That's what it feels like. Like I saw a guy, Tom Sharma, who did Clash of Creators. I saw him tweet the other day. There should be a podcast where where you just get a random old person on to tell stories. I'm going basically what happy hour is when I'm there. But yeah, go on. I accept this in the nicest possible sense, whatever it's going to be.
So it's really quite nice, to be honest. You're always giving out words of wisdom and life advice on your channel. So I wondered if you could speak to the young people who are listening to this podcast right now and give them some life advice in regards to traveling and seeking adventures outside of their comfort zone. What would you say?
Within the realms of safety, do as much as you can. Like, I'm not suggesting if you're a young single woman, you walk around a really rough neighborhood at first to experience what it's like, sort of thing like that. If you're, or that you decide to go skydiving on your own if you've got no training. Without that, do as much stuff and you'll have adventures. And I'm never telling a story on Happy Hour about the time I sat inside and watched television. Do you know what I mean? Because that's not how good things happen. But you get some, and you never know when the best things are going to happen or the best nights are going to happen. My friend Sally, I don't know if you've met Saunders. I remember I lived with her for years before I moved in with my wife, and she was out. We were out one day. This is not a traveling story, but just a seizing the day story. We were out one day in Primrose Hill in London, and we were on our way home to Ealing. We said, "Should we go for one more drink?" We're like, "Yeah, let's go." Now we popped into K West Hotel in Shepherd's Bush, which is where all the bands used to stay when they were in London back in the day. I don't know if they still do or not. And we'd always bump into people we knew there through Soccer Aim and that. And I went down there. Serge from Kasabian was there, who I knew. So I went down started chatting with him.
Wow.
He had his friend Mikey there, got chatting to this guy. And then through Mikey, eventually, who was someone who came on our ski trips, met his friend Rob. Sally ended up dating Rob. Rob moved to New York.
Oh, wow.
Sally then moved to New York with him. Like, after I moved in with my wife, she moved to New York to go experience that. While she was out there, she started working on Auntie Bourdain's travel show.
No way.
She won an Emmy for it. She's got an Emmy on her mantelpiece. What? She's now married to Rob. They've got twins. All this sort of life. Amazing stuff. All because we went and did that extra drink that we didn't necessarily have to. And it doesn't mean... and I've met through Mike, I've met loads of other friends, and we've all experienced a lot just because of that one drink. And it doesn't mean you should go out every night, because that's a slippery slope sort of thing. But the more stuff you do, the more happens. It's like if you're a young man looking to romance ladies, the way you can kiss twice as many ladies is to talk to twice as many ladies. You know what I mean? The more you do, the more will happen to you. So just say yes to stuff when you can.
That's good advice. Solid advice.
Nice. So we want to speak about Happy Hour podcast, of course. I was watching your video this morning titled, "I Wish I Knew This When I Was 20.
Okay,
and you said that you wouldn't have gone on Happy Hour and have got the Happy Hour gig if you hadn't got in a mood in the supermarket and decided not to go for a few months, then wrote a Facebook post about it. But you said it was a long story. Something we've got right now is time.
I will tell you as quickly as possible. So essentially, one Christmas, before Christmas, I was living in Forest Hill in London, and I had done my Christmas shop online in advance, was all prepared and all that, but we got invited to someone's house. So I had to go, I said I'd make dessert or something, so I had to go and buy a few bits from the supermarket. It was like the 23rd of December or something like that. It was an awful experience. The queue for the checkout was an hour, all down the aisle, right to the end of the aisles. It was horrific. There was hardly anything on the shelves. They put the price up of everything. The quality was awful. I remember having carrots that were disgusting. I don't know how you can mess up carrots. And I went through the whole experience was horrific. And I remember at the end of it thinking, there's got to be a better way of doing this. So I didn't tell anyone apart from my wife, who was like, oh, whatever. But I didn't go to a supermarket for a year. Well, no, for 6 months. I said I was going to do a year. In the end of the 6 months, I was like, I'm not going to set foot in a supermarket for 6 months.
Wow.
And I just went to independent shops. I started getting milk delivered. I'd get veg boxes. It helped that I lived in London because there's a lot of stuff around. And it was annoying in parts because if you need to buy some turmeric for a recipe,
Yeah.
And you know there's some in Sainsbury's, but you have to wander around shops looking for turmeric. It's quite frustrating. But it's changed the way I shop ever since, and I learned a lot from it. And at the end of it, I wasn't even going to mention it to anyone. I thought, Joe, I'll do a little Facebook post. Just on my private Facebook, I just said, I haven't been to a supermarket for 6 months. These are the 7 things I've learned. And someone got in touch there who worked for the Huffington Post and said that I knew, and she said, do you want to write a blog about this? It's really interesting. So I went, okay. So I did a blog. I did a few other things. I did like a few like local radio things talking about it, and I think I was in the Scottish Sun and stuff like this. So I did this this blog. I think I wrote one other blog for them, and then they phoned me up and said, look, we've got this brand deal with Amoy, like a filming thing. Do you want to be in it? We can pay you to do it, and you might win a holiday. So it was basically, there was a team of bloggers, a team of YouTubers, and a team of comedians. I was in the team of bloggers, which seemed a bit unfair on other bloggers when I'd written 2 blogs ever. It seemed quite unfair that I was going, you will represent bloggers. So I was on that, and Jack was one of the team on the team of YouTubers. Jack and Helen were the 2 YouTubers. That's how I met him, which obviously then eventually led to me doing Happy Hour. But again, it's just a sort of do stuff, and it will lead to something. Incidentally, we won the Chinese cooking competition. Me and this girl called Victoria, who's lovely. She was 25. And they said, yeah, you won the holiday. And I suddenly thought, are they going to expect me to go on holiday with this girl who's lovely? I mean, I'm sure we have a great time, but it's a very tough call to make to my wife and young child. Something. I'm just at the airport. I'm just off to Hong Kong for a week. So in the end, they went, do you want the holiday or do you want the cash? I will take the cash. So that's another I guess example of just doing stuff.
Love that. Now, I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, and I'd be surprised if anyone doesn't, because it's always at the top of the charts. Happy Hour is an incredible podcast. Like, it's such a good listen to. The range of guests are unreal, but also the conversations between the 3 of you are brilliant. One of those things that you often talk about are the hypothetical games.
Yep.
And we often come around to doing that on the Travel Talks podcast as well. So we want to run one past you and get your response to this hypothetical. Love it. If you had to design your dream holiday based on 5 factors, those factors being mode of transport, weather, like an activity, something to do, general vibe, architecture, landscape, that sort of thing, what is that dream holiday? And it is worth noting that none of this needs to make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will. I'm going to travel by train. Because it's a bit environmentally better. It's quite a more pleasant experience, isn't it? Sort of thing. Like the Eurostar is a great experience. I'm going to go skiing, obviously, because I think you probably guessed that was going to be the case. I'm going to go to the Alps, and I'm going to go to Kitzbühel in the Alps specifically at the weekend of the men's downhill. I'm going to go and watch. I'm going to go and watch the skiing. What were the other criteria?
Architecture's one.
Architecture, landscape.
So yeah, it's a beautiful sort of chocolate box village. It's stunning mountains. I can go skiing. One of the other things I know Alex, I'm always talking about skiing, and you're not sure. One of the other things I love about it is that if you're into football, you probably aren't going to be allowed to go out and play at Wembley, or if you're not going to get to have a little knockabout at Wimbledon if you're into tennis sort of thing. If you're into skiing, you can ski the World Cup downhill course because as soon as it's finished, you can go and do the same run. It's not going to be fenced off for you, but you can do any of these things, and it's unbelievable when you watch these things and get to know a run like that. Hanenkam Strife in Kitzbühel is one of the most famous ski runs in the world, and an incredible thing to watch, and tends to have the most crashes every year, sort of thing, which is also quite fun. But it's a really challenging thing. And when you ski it and you go down it, I mean, a black run, but it's doable if you're decent at skiing. Yeah, you'll get down it and you'll do a bit, and you look back and you go, "Hang on, the thing that's just taken me a minute to do, they'll cover in the air in 3 seconds, and then they'll hit the ridge and fly through the air for 30 meters or whatever sort of thing and land, and it's taken me like a minute to get down this bit sort of thing like that." And only when you're out there can you get to go understand fully what it is they're achieving.
That's a good one. I feel like it's very achievable, like for a context.
Very achievable.
Alex's was getting a banana boat to, where was it again? Somewhere like Gran Canaria sort of vibe, right?
Gran Canaria weather with like the vibe of. It might have been like Brazil, but the architecture of Peru. It was like the most
Okay.
random
I've not gone abstract enough. Is that what I've done? Okay, in that case, I'm gonna put Merlin's Bar from Whistler at the bottom of the hill.
We have quite a similar one because mine was like, chocolate box sort of town on a mountain. Yeah. But then I said at the bottom of the mountain there needed to be a tropical ocean.
Okay, yeah. No, I'll get more into it.
But still,
maybe the ski lifts give you an option of on one side the ski steps and the other side a water slide down to the down to the bottom. Yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
Okay, now we're getting better. Okay, I think I understand the question more now. I went too literal.
Right. Okay. Moving on. Let's talk about beer.
Ooh,
because. Yeah. I think it's fair to say that you are somewhat of a beer connoisseur, recently reaching, let's say, the boss level of beer connoisseuring. You started your own craft beer company, Bin Day Brewing. How did that all come about?
So basically what I learned from YouTube is that no matter what video I do, I'll probably make 50 quid from YouTube ad revenue. Right. So what I've learned is that I can try anything I'm interested in up to the value of £50 for free. So if I go, I wonder what this will be like, and I can do it for free. So I worked out that I thought you can get a lockdown one. I thought, okay, I can get a brewing kit for about 50 quid, and I can give it a go and see how it works out. And if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter because I'll get it back in ad revenue. So So I thought, okay, I'll do that. So I brewed beer, and I was surprised. And you can get the things where you get the extract to do it, but this was like using grains from scratch, grains, water, yeast, and hops. Literally just that, and making a beer. In fact, it wasn't. It was an Elvis juice brewdog kit. So I got a grapefruit as well from the shop and used that in it. But what I was surprised was that you could make beer at home, or I could make beer more accurately. And I was surprised it was nice, because my memory of homebrew was like in the 80s and 90s when your mate's dad had it in their kitchen. It stank like this tar sort of thing. So the fact that I can actually make nice beer, and it's going to be nice because it's fresh as well. It's like most of the time if you buy a can from the supermarket, it's been around for a bit sort of thing. It might have been pasteurized, it might have been treated in some way to prolong the shelf life, but it's fresh. It's going to be nice. And I gave it to quite a few people, and they're going, this is really good. So I went, okay, someone was kind enough to give me slightly better kit that I could make more than a few bottles or things. So I can now make 15, 20 litres at a time. So I got this slightly better kit, and kept on doing it, got better, understanding it a bit more, brewed a few times, gave it to more people, got their opinions and that, to the point where I was making sort of decent beer, and people were going, taking it to people I'd met who were professional brewers and going, that's really good. That would happily, I'd be really happy if I got that in a pub sort of thing. And it tasted well, go, this is fantastic. And then I thought, well, do you know what? I wanted to do a brewery. I've always thought if I worked in any business other than making videos, I could market it really well because I'm good at making videos sort of thing. That's a really frustrating thing that you're in the industry where everyone can do the marketing techniques. So I thought I'll do this. I wanted to do something with my friend Mike anyway, because we like hanging out with each other. And the idea of the brewery is, because I believe in sort of transparency and things like that, I think people like honesty a lot of the time. I think a lot of people are very secretive about stuff. The idea is it's the first YouTube brewery. So everything we do, we share. There'll be some things you can't share. You obviously couldn't share someone's salary or something like that who worked for you. But down to what we're trying to do is say, we did this merch thing and we made this amount of money. This is the economics of what's happened, and try and be as transparent about things as possible. But then the longer term thing is to build a physical brewery in Norwich and collaborate with YouTubers. So you could get Max Fosh could come down and brew the type of beer he likes. You can make nice content about it. You could sell it. He could get an amount per can that gets sold or something like that. Work with people, and it become the sort of community brewery. And as we've been talking beyond that, we said, okay, wouldn't it be good if it's not just this does well and Mike and myself make some money? Wouldn't it be good if everyone can do it? And we looked into equity based crowdfunding. So the plan will be probably early next year. We'll say, right, we're going to build a brewery. We need to raise this much money. Anyone who watches it can own a bit of the brewery and stuff like that. And rather than the crowdfunding, which is fine, I've got nothing against, but the crowdfunding where you donate some money and you get a t-shirt, but really you're paying a company some money sort of thing. This would be you donate some money and you get a share of the brewery. And
Sounds great.
we could get investors in as well, but at the same rate as the other people like that. So no one's getting a better deal. It's on an equal playing field. I think if you then treat people as co-owners and big them up like that, something, I think you'll build up that thing. I've had a lot of people in the YouTube world, of YouTubers I've mentioned this to them. They go, "We'll invest in that." So I think what we're hopefully going to end up with is something that's owned by YouTubers, viewers, us, and is inclusive of the whole community while still not being cocks and stuff like that, sort of thing. Like you get people involved in, like, and get people involved who are experts in things and know stuff. Like if we were like, right, how can we make this more environmentally sustainable? I'd be on the phone to Saunders going, let's do a video about how you can make this more sustainable, sort of thing. And then you get the benefits of that knowledge that people have as well. Like things that we knew as soon as we announced it and put our first beer out, people would get in touch with us and offer us advice and stuff. So the next brewery, we've been doing a brew with S43 up in County Durham. That was people who watched the content and went, "We love this. Do you want to do something?" We went, yeah, we do. And they are brilliant. They get it completely. We've been up there doing stuff with them. We did a brew last week or the week before where we did it entirely live on Twitch and people could vote on stuff. So not like we want you to wee in the mash tun or something like that. It was stuff like we need to put some hops in now. These are the 3 choices, and this is the brewer explaining how it will affect the flavour. So you get everyone getting involved in that, and so that's the aim of it, and we'll see how it goes.
I love that. I mean,
sounds so good.
Straight away, count me in as an investor when that comes
Wonderful.
about.
We'll let you know, and you can also be our environmental consultant as well, because that's the thing. That's like you look at things. Everyone goes, "I want to be environmentally conscious," but there are trade-offs in it at all, and things like for every pint of beer, I think it's something mental. Like it takes like 9 pints of water. It uses an immense amount of water, but then you've got to go, okay, you minimize that where possible. It's unavoidable, and there's ways you can go around it, sort of thing. But how else can you be greener in your transporting of stuff like that, or your supply chain and stuff like that, sort of thing? So I think, getting all the expertise from people, and also I'm aware that Mike and I are two middle-aged white heterosexual middle-class bloke sort of thing. So it'll be good to find out from people who aren't that how we can be more inclusive of things. Like if you're building a tap room, it makes sense to chat to some people in the space who are like, okay, what's the ideal toilet situation if you're trans? What's the ideal if you're disabled in a wheelchair? How do we help out there, sort of thing? So I think if you get involved in all the different people and understand that we don't know the answers to things, let's ask people. I think it will be inclusive and a force for good.
Love that.
Sounds great. So this is an absolutely mental question I'm about to ask you.
Great.
Without any warning, even more so. Is there a best beer which you've ever had? And in this, I want you to take into account where you were, what you were doing at the time you were drinking it.
Look, if you, again, we're going to come back to skiing. If you were to ask me, you can have 1 pint anywhere now, I would go to Merlin's at the bottom of Blackcomb Mountain, Whistler, and I would have a pint of Kokanee, which is the shit macro lager that you get mass produced there, because it's the first beer I ever really drank, because I never drank beer at uni. I like cider. And my boss, Adrian, my sort of line manager, when I was there, and we'd have a night called, every payday, which every 2 weeks, we had a night called Fubar Night, which was fuck up by a round. Apologies if you can't swear on this. But essentially, anyone who made a mistake would get... You'd get written on a board and you'd have to buy a jug of beer on payday. And essentially, it could be anything. If you said something stupid, you get rid of this board. What it meant was every payday, everyone come down and buy a jug of beer, and there'd be lots of beer. You'd buy 1 jug a night and everyone would drink. And essentially, almost everyone got written up for it.
Sounds great.
And it was great nights. But Adrian, my boss, said to me, I said, I don't like beer. He goes, oh, you got to drink beer. He said, no one likes beer when they first start beer. Just drink beer and you'll be all right. So he made me down a pint of beer every payday until after about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, yeah, this is fine. So I think, and it's got such great memories. So that's the pint I love. It's definitely not the best beer in the world, but it's got good memories. It's easy drinking. You can have a bit of it and something, and it's good. So I think there are beers that are better, that taste better, but you can. There's stories around it and circumstances. I remember talking to someone, a brewer. He said he was working in a bar, I think it was a Brewdog bar years ago, and they'd get given all these like beers that weren't out yet. And so he got to his friends, said, look, we've got 10 10 beers that aren't out, that haven't been released from Brewdog. We're going to try these out. I want to rank them on an order. And he had 9 from Brewdog, whatever, and got a can of Carling or Foster's or something like that.
Yeah.
And put it in there. And the Foster's one came like 3rd out of 10, something like that. So it's
Really?
not,
Wow.
because people don't know that. But he was selling it. So he's going like, this is this really cool new lager technique and all this sort of stuff like that. And people will just go, no, I get that sort of thing. So a lot of it, there's a lot of stuff that's
marketing.
That's the marketing or environment or what you think you're having sort of thing. But there are definitely, there's definitely a lot more quality if you are getting a good beer.
Nice. So to move on to the questions which we ask everyone, the kind of staple questions of Travel Talks. Mm-hmm. The first question is, what is your favourite city in the entire world and why?
Besides Norwich, I always talk about Norwich. People think I'm joking, but I do genuinely believe Norwich to be the greatest city in the UK, and it is up there with the others. I mean, Vancouver I love because I lived there. It's fantastic. I think the food's incredible. If you like sushi, it's unbelievable. The sort of cheap sushi you can get out there. And it's this great sort of outdoorsy thing where once you get to April, you could go up to the mountains and ski in the morning, and you could swim in the sea in the afternoon. And you've got all that in one place. I think and the architecture, even having lived there for a year, you walk around a corner, you look up and you see the sort of grid system streets, and down the end, an enormous snow-topped mountain and with the sun setting on it. It's stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. In Europe, Barcelona, I've got a lot of fond memories. In fact, I've got friends out in Barcelona, and there's a bit where I was seeing a girl out there. And when I was at Soccer AM, my mum had loads of air miles that she got from Tesco's that she never really used. She said, you can have them. So I was booking up. I was going out every other weekend. I was going to Barcelona, and I would finish.
Wow.
I'd finish the show at Soccer AM at 12. I'd get a flight, maybe around 2 from somewhere, and I'd go to Barcelona. I'd come back the Tuesday morning, go straight to work. And I was just doing that every other week for a bit. And
Awesome.
to the point that in my social group in Barcelona, I remember some people were talking to my friends and saying, they'd be going out like a Thursday night and go, oh, we should get Robbie out. And they go, oh, no, Robbie's in the UK at the minute. They go, oh, what's he doing there? He goes, oh, he lives there. And he doesn't live here. So I was just basically there all the time. So Barcelona, I think, is my favourite city in Europe. Again, you've got the mixture of incredible food, incredible bars, beautiful architecture, stunning scenery, beach, just a great lifestyle. I think Spanish people are brilliant. I like siestas, like the lot.
Okay, so you've got favourite city, favourite country. Are we safe to say this is Canada, or is there something else that we haven't talked about
I
yet?
don't know if it's Canada. I'm not sure. I like Vancouver, I like Whistler. The problem with Canadians is...
I've never heard that phrase before.
This is it. Is the niceness. Because everyone says Canadians are so nice. It's not true. There are idiot Canadians as well. The problem is everyone is outwardly nice. So you can't tell what someone's like. So if you meet a British person or an Australian, you know within 10 minutes if they're a dick. I would be hanging out with me and other British guys would be hanging out with Canadians for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I'd be talking to my British guys going, is this guy a prick? They're going, I think he is, I think this guy's a prick. And you just don't know because everyone's outwardly nice. And it makes it so much harder to work people out. So for that reason, I'm discounting Canada. Favourite country, Italy's good, but there's quite a lot of sleazy guys, isn't there? It's great. I can't pick Spain again. Oh, let's go the Netherlands. Oh, but then it's not got good beaches.
No.
Oh, skiing.
Yeah.
Can I pick France? America's good. I'm going to go, let's go America. America's got everything, hasn't it? Well, I went with my wife on our honeymoon to India, and it was great. We saw a lot of great stuff. Went travelled around for a week or two. Fantastic. But we were, one of us was constantly ill. There was there were issues. We got hit by a steamroller at some point in our car. A lot of things went wrong. And we're going, it's great. We kept saying, this is great, isn't it great? We're on a flight home. And in between, people rushing to the toilet have diarrhea. We're going, it'd been great if we got to America. And we're going, America's so good. Because it's brilliant. And people go, those Americans don't have passports. I go, I get it. You can do everything. Yeah. You can have your beach holidays, you can have this. I'll go to America because of the variety. I mean, there's issues there. And some people are mental, but there's a lot going on. I'm going to pick America.
Fair play. Good choice. So I'm interested. As a freelancer, in theory at least, you could live wherever you wanted in the world. So has there ever been anywhere that you visited and you've come across and you thought potentially you could move there to live there permanently?
Yeah, I mean, the issue is when I was single, I was at Soccer AM, and it was hard. And I did think, and I was sort of there. Could I live in Barcelona most of the time? Could I book up flights and live full time in Barcelona? So I'd be there all of the summer and get a cheap room somewhere for during the week and rent that sort of thing, because Barcelona at the time was an expensive place to live. I did consider that for a bit, but then you sort of freelance thing. My job was sort of tied here. It is the attraction of YouTube. A lot of it is the independence of location, and if I can get to the point where, I mean, now I've got kids, so you're sort of tied to schooling as well, sort of thing. But what I would like to do, it would be to get to the point where I can make all my money from digital stuff, podcasts, YouTube, whatever. It would mean that in the summer holidays with the kids, we could go and just live in Prague for the summer or travel around for a bit. And if you can still make YouTube videos where you're going and fly back for happy hour, if that's still going, and do things like that, then that would be the dream for me, to be able to travel around with the family and go and see all these places and just experience this. Because certainly post-COVID now, the reason we moved to Norwich is because my wife's no longer tied to commuting to London. She's going to be in the office once a fortnight is the plan. So it means you're not stuck in one place. So that is the attraction of all the YouTube stuff, really.
Love it. Would you say in general you prefer cities or more rural travel destinations?
Cities, I think. Yeah, because I never really go to the countryside. I prefer cities to beaches or something like that, or cities or places. But then I suppose like a ski resort's rural. I like stuff to do. I get bored.
Yeah.
I mean, and the good thing is, if you're in a city, you can generally do little day trips out on a train out to somewhere more rural, something. If you're in Barcelona, you can go down the coast to Sitges or something and hang out there for a bit. There's lots of things to do. I think Barcelona is sort of the ideal place for me, in that it's got the beaches and the city sort of things. You can have lots of holidays in one, because I will get well. But then but New York's fantastic, and because there's lots of stuff there, and you can just go eating and drinking for a week without doing anything else. I'd be completely happy. So stuff to do is the key thing for me.
Nice. Talking of eating and drinking, let's move on to food now. Would you consider yourself a foodie to start with?
I like eating food. It always makes it sound a bit sort of knobheady, doesn't it? Foodie.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm really into this sort of thing. But I guess so. Yeah, no, I do like going to nice places to eat and all this. And I don't mean like expensive things. I've got a few friends. My friends Desi and Fons are quite wealthy, and I went out with them and Tim Lovejoy to Copenhagen recently, and they're into their food, and they're both very well off. And they ordered like this. We went to this market. They ordered like caviar and oysters and all this. It's nice. I get that, but I was looking at the place, and it was nice. But I was looking around. I was thinking, pizza over there looks unreal. Sort of thing. So a lot of the time, I like going to, not necessarily the high-end restaurants, but I like having sort of authentic local food and stuff like that, and experiencing different things. That's my favourite bit. That's one of the best bits of travelling, eating and drinking.
So on that, where would you say is the best country for food, if you could narrow it down to one?
It's got to be Italy, isn't it? Italy's the only correct answer, because you've got such variety of stuff. Pizza and pasta, and they do great sort of seafood and all of this, and I mean, I don't think any country comes close to it. The coffee's great as well. I love when you're at a station in Italy and the people just go up. They've got a little kiosk on the platform. People go up, just order espresso, knock it back, and carry on with their day, sort of thing. It's like a functional part of the day, sort of thing. But you've still got amazing stuff. And also when you get to Europe as well. I mean, with beer as well. I mean, I remember in the days before craft beer was big, you'd go to somewhere in Europe. This has gone off Italy, so I think more Germany now. But you'd go somewhere like that and you have beer and go, why is this nice? Why isn't our beer like this sort of thing? Why do we not have this as an option? How we do now? But Italy, I think, is the best. Is anyone to give any other answers?
It's a pretty common answer, I'd say.
Yeah. Japan, the sushi, sushi's come up quite a few times.
Yeah, I don't know if I love sushi, but I'm going to have breakfast sushi.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. That's the thing. Like India, I love curry, and it's good out there. But The problem with India for food is the diarrhea and all this sort of thing like that. They need to, do you know what they need to do in India? They need to get everyone, just take one day, gets one day off work, get all of India together in the morning, teach them basic food hygiene, and in the afternoon, teach them, agree on basic driving rules. Because those two things the country would be a global superpower in a week. They can sort those two issues out. But India's great, and there's lots of good countries with food. But Italy.
Nice. So if we had to push you for a particular dish, maybe a pizza or pasta, or it could be somewhere else as well.
I mean, that pizza in Italy, just that street pizza's incredible. I say Vancouver, the sushi you get in Vancouver's phenomenal and so cheap. Like you get a meal that would cost you 30, 40 quid here for under a tenner in Vancouver. A lot of sort of cheap little local sushi places. The nachos at Merlin's in Whistler are one of the wonders of the world. Oh, I'm going to go for Merlin's nachos. They're incredible. Google them. Anyone listening, look, Merlin's Whistler nachos, and you will see what I'm talking about, because it is like no nachos you've seen before.
Awesome. And we asked this question. It's like the negative angle to this positive podcast.
Okay.
And it's the place that you would never go back to.
Never say never, but the worst place I've ever been in my life is Tijuana in Mexico. I don't know if anyone's ever familiar with it. And I'll tell you why. It's because it's the border place just below San Diego. It's the bit where America and Mexico meet on the West Coast. And you get the mix of American between the ages of 18 and 21 who can't legally drink at home going to get drunk for the first time, and the worst people in Mexico coming to take advantage of the drunk 18-year-old Mexican people, combining in this cesspit of horror. Of just it's horrendous. It's funny for about 2 hours, and then you've got to get out of there. Yeah.
Crikey. Okay, what about a place from your travels that you feel like you need to go back to? Someone that you explored a little bit and thought, you know what, I'll go back.
I would like to go back to Australia. I went there once, but my daughter was 9 months old, so we were visiting friends and that, but I didn't really get to do much stuff. I'd like to go back and experience Australia properly, because I know lots of incredible Australians, and I think it's a fantastic country, but I've not done it properly.
Nice. So the final question, the big one, I suppose, looking ahead into the future, everyone's got a bucket list, or at least places they want to visit at some point in their life. What would you say tops that bucket list for you?
I don't know if there's countries. I'd like to spend more time in South America. I loved Brazil when I was there. Been to Costa Rica, and that was fantastic. It's probably going to be a skiing thing. I'd just like to do more of the big American ski resorts. I think I'd love to go to Aspen or Vail, Breckenridge, some of these sort of big, huge mountain resorts, and just experience those. And I imagine I probably will in the next few years. But those sort of big things that you've read so much about or seen so much about, and ski some of the famous runs and stuff like that. I'd love to do maybe Vail. Let's go for Vail.
Nice. Robbie Knox, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on, talking through all your travel stories and going in, talking about beer. I mean, that beer conversation, that's completely blown my mind. It's made me think about it in different ways. Before we wrap up, we'd love to give you the opportunity to push to everything you've got going on, YouTube, podcast, beer. Where can people find you and what can they expect to see? Okay.
YouTube, if you like YouTube videos, I do for YouTube videos more so when the kids are back at school, because at the minute I'm kind of busy. So Robbie Knox, you search on YouTube. Bin Day Brewing Company, YouTube as well. I'm on Instagram and Twitter fairly regularly, on Happy Hour Podcast. But yeah, go to Bin Day Brewing Company and sign up for the mailing list, and you'll get notified when new beers are out, if that's something you're interested in.
Thanks, Robbie. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Lovely to meet you too.
It's been genuinely fantastic. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, so thank you very much for having me.